this out. This will make or break Marvel Studios. This is the damn man has to say about this. Check this out.
Marvel fans are happy that the MCU's Phase 4 is behind us, and we are looking forward to Phase 5. And the first project in Phase 5 is right around the corner. This, of course, being Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And believe it or not, there is a lot riding on Quantumania for Marvel Studios. If this movie nails it, Marvel will have reinvigorated the fan base's passion and solidify that Phase 5 will be better than Phase 4. But if this movie fumbles, it will further push some fans away, and it will put Marvel Studios on their heels. That's why Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is make or break for Marvel Studios. And in this video, I want to go over 3 main things that Marvel needs to nail in order to secure the W and have all of their fans cheering. And I'm going to dive deep on each of these 3 things that Quantumania needs to nail. And I'm also going to give my take on what I think the movie will actually do, potentially right and wrong. So the first thing that Marvel needs to nail is the quality. And I know what you're thinking. No, Josh, of course it needs to be a quality movie. But I want to dive deep on this. I want to specifically explain what fans are going to be paying attention to in Quantumania. Some Marvel fans have their guard up. And this is because Phase 4 did see a huge drop-off in quality, and it essentially felt like Marvel Studios was choosing quantity over quality. Ultimately, what once felt like something truly special began to feel like product. Lack of incredibly compelling stories and lack of a huge macro story that connected all of the projects, unfulfilled character arcs, and bad visual effects were just some of the things that plagued many different projects in Phase 4. And I know what some of you are thinking out there. You're saying to yourselves, but Josh, there are a number of different reasons why this happened. Number 1 was the global health crisis in 2020 and the constraints put on the productions of these different projects. On top of that, there were a lot of different things that were beyond the control of Marvel Studios when it came to things like Chadwick Boseman's passing or other delays for films that they didn't have full control of, like Spider-Man: No Way Home. And while that is true, there's also the factor of Disney Plus and Marvel Studios doing streaming shows. And I think the fact of the matter is that even the most generous Marvel fans that completely understand factors beyond Marvel Studios' control making the quality take a hit in Phase 4 are still ready for better quality. We're still ready for now things to get back to the way that they used to be. Quantumania needs to feel like an incredible movie with wonderful characters, huge stakes and tension, a way cool villain, and visual sequences that we frankly can't wait to see again and again. This is what made Marvel great in the first place. They nailed every aspect of movie making while also setting up this huge connected universe. And I think Marvel Studios, especially in its early stages, never got the credit it deserved for, frankly, just nailing all of the aspects of movie making, which are really hard to do. Now, luckily, from what we've seen in the trailers, it does seem like Quantumania will be a jump up in quality, especially compared to a lot of the Phase 4 projects. Despite some of the shots looking clearly like green screen or that they shot on the volume, many of the visual effects look stunning. Kang looks incredible. His costume looks on point, and the visual effects of his powers and the technology that he uses seems awesome. Chronopolis itself seems like a really cool environment. The Quantum Nexus scene with all the different Scott variants and even one getting shredded into rope, man, that sequence looks incredible. And it seems like there's going to be some kind of crazy battle at the end of the movie, and it looks visually appealing from what we see in the trailer. But on top of that, the character stuff seems incredible. You've got a really brilliant family dynamic, and the differences between different groups of family. Regret and loss of time also seem to play a huge part for different character motivations, especially in Scott's guilt. And the idea of this boogeyman type villain that can offer the lost time that Scott feels guilty about as a prize for helping him is really compelling. And so from what we see in the trailers, it does seem like Quantumania has that old school Marvel mix of really great character stuff, a film that in and of itself will be compelling while also nailing the quality of the visual effects and setting up fun stuff for the future. But now let's just jump right into the second thing that I think Marvel Studios needs to nail with Quantumania to achieve the almighty W that they are looking for. And it's the tone. Quantumania must nail the tone. And the tone needs to be serious but fun. Now, this also has to do with major complaints about Marvel's Phase 4. Some people think Marvel has always had this issue and that the formula just grew tiresome in Phase 4 because there were so many different projects. I actually reject that idea. I think the dramatic stakes of the Infinity Saga and the serious character moments were the bread and butter of Marvel's Infinity Saga. And I think this tone nailed it for the individual characters and the individual movies, but I also think the overall tone of the story of Marvel from Iron Man to Endgame is actually a serious story. Ask yourself this: did any of the characters from the Infinity Saga seem like a joke? Out of all of the memorable moments from your favorite Marvel movies from phases 1, 2, and 3, how many of them are joking moments? How many of the moments that you think back to with fondness from the Infinity Saga were comedic scenes? Ask yourself, how many of those old movies do you think had too much humor? Now, I'm not saying that an overly comedic tone is the issue for every single Phase 4 project, but if you think about the best Phase 4 projects, I think you'll agree that the tone of those projects was serious. And that's what Quantumania needs to be. It needs to be serious with humor throughout. And if I'm being completely honest with you, this is actually an aspect of the movie that has me worried. The AntMan movies have always been more lighthearted and focused on comedy compared to the other projects. Paul Rudd is literally a comedic actor, and he's always been really funny. And so, of course, this movie is going to be funny. There's going to be a lot of jokes in Quantumania. But my hope is that Kang and the seriousness of him as a threat will balance out the comedic elements of the movie. I guess my worst fear is that there's some weird, goofy Deus Ex Machina way that they'll beat Kang at the end of the film, but essentially Kang is taken off the board in some weird way until a movie down the line, and then the whole cast cracks a bunch of corny jokes and they all just go back to the regular world. That would be a huge freaking bummer. So I'm a little worried about this one, and I think there's reason to be concerned, but I also think it's possible that Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios understand this desire, and they do understand that Phase 5 needs to shift back into a more serious tone. And so it's possible that while this movie will be full of humor and comedy and lightheartedness, that it will end in a surprisingly dark way. But now let's talk about the third thing Marvel needs to nail to secure the massive W that we all want them to get with Quantumania. This movie needs to nail setting up the future. It needs to give us stuff to look forward to in the future projects. From the very first MCU movie, when Nick Fury showed up, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has always left fans with something to look forward to. Now, this hasn't always been done in post-credit scenes, and there are several lines and different scenes throughout the history of Marvel movies that set up curiosities for future projects. But make no mistake about it, this is a huge part of why Marvel was as successful as it once was, and why the Infinity Saga felt like such a crazy culmination. And again, this is something fans will be looking for because it really wasn't in Phase 4. We already know that Kang is going to be the big bad for this phase. He's going to be the new Thanos. However, when Thanos was introduced, there were a lot of scenes, whether they were post-credit scenes or scenes in different projects, that were dedicated to setting up the mystery of how we were going to arrive at Thanos. And there was a ton of stuff, just being a comic book fan, that were in fans' minds that they were looking for as they were watching different Marvel movies. I mean, there were fan theories about how the Infinity Stones would pop up in Marvel way before Marvel ever actually solidified that. Now, in Age of Ultron, there are a lot of hints at what is going on with the MacGuffins and the different stones, but the most important thing was that all of these different scenes just gave Marvel fans more to think about and more to look for in the different projects that were coming out. Now, some of this stuff is done in Phase 4 with things like the bangle and the 10 rings being established as something pretty significant to what's going to be happening with Kang and Secret Wars, but a lot of that stuff actually comes from comments by Kevin Feige or other producers or things that are being said outside of the movies themselves. In the same way that we watched a ton of the stuff in Phases 2 and 3 thinking about what that meant for Thanos, we need to be doing that same thing in the rest of the Phase 5 and Phase 6 projects as we lead to the Kang Dynasty. And this being a movie where we think we will meet the Kang variant that will eventually become the actual big bad villain of the next two Avengers movie, is the perfect opportunity to set some really interesting things up for fans to be thinking about, speculating about, and trying to look for in the different coming projects. Fans need to be able to look at different Marvel projects coming and identify different aspects that seem weird and could lead to Kang or maybe some time-traveling mischief. We need to be able to feel and speculate on how Kang could be behind some of the things that are going to be happening. Now, luckily for us as fans, it does seem like Marvel is going to take full advantage of this, and producers for Marvel are talking about how this movie is going to be incredibly impactful on the rest of the MCU. This is Kang and Jonathan Majors sort of coming out party as this villainous version of Kang the Conqueror. And there are a lot of fans that are skeptical of Kang even being able to be the next Thanos. And so I think Marvel Studios is keenly aware of how important it will be to set Kang up and to set up all of these different projects as possibly being connected to Kang the Conqueror. But if this is fumbled or left really vague, I feel like fans might check out and just simply not be as interested in speculation, fan discussion, and theorizing as they were in the Infinity Saga. And that hype, again, is so important to the health of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It really does drive anticipation and get people to go check this stuff out, talk about it, sort of, spreading the word about it. Because if you'll remember, like, leading into Infinity War and Endgame, it just seemed so culturally relevant that a ton of people got into Marvel just then. They'd go back and watch all the old movies, but it was the fact that that discussion reached this sort of peak state that really did bring in all of the new fans and make it feel like a global event. Smash like on this video, subscribe to this channel and our streaming channel because we give away dope, nerdy things to random subscribers each and every month. If you want to watch more, why not check out this video I recently did about how we're hearing Kevin Feige's plan for the MCU X-Men is going to be cosmic.
Subscribe, like this video. Have a great day, and see you guys. Bye.